Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today what we would do is go through the season challenges for the Season 9 of the Battle Pass, Smell of Victory. Most of these challenges are not too hard. Generally, they're copies of older ones, which weren't too bad. Usually, when it comes to these things, most of them can be done pretty easily, or while you're generally grinding the game and the Battle Pass anyway, but some of them may require some interesting techniques. There's a bunch of different season challenges. Obviously, they have dates connected to them, which I'll show. And remember, every season challenge you complete gives you 3 levels of the Battle Pass, and if you complete them all, you get a nice little bonus where you get another 4.5 levels. So focusing on doing these is important, because it means that you can grind out a decent amount of the Battle Pass by just doing them. Pretty much as simple as that. And also, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoy the video, make sure to like it as always. Let's get into the challenges. The first challenge is called Gifts of Prometheus, and all you have to do is set enemy vehicles on fire a certain number of times, and it actually is 80 times. Now, this can be quite daunting if you don't play specific vehicles. The easiest way of doing this is to play rank 3 destroyers or cruisers when it comes to naval, and just spam HE at people. The more HE you spam, the more fires that you'll set, and it'll be really easy to do. So that is one of the ways to do this really easily. The other way of doing it is to use a lot of HE, hash, stuff like that in ground forces, and shoot targets, especially in the engines and the fuel tanks, and make them burn in that way. A lot of ammunition or ammo racks will also technically count as setting an enemy on fire because it explodes, so that is also something you can do. If you are struggling with it though, I highly recommend naval. If you haven't got naval ground out to rank 3, first of all, make sure to do that. It's very important, especially if you want to do a bunch of the challenges. And then second of all, you can always just shoot people in the engine, in ground forces, over and over and over again. You can generally get at least 2 or 3 fires out of this. Then if you just do that over and over again, you've done it pretty easy. Heat treatment is the next one, and you just have to destroy or get assists for 250 vehicles. So this should be super easy. It's player vehicles as well. The easiest place to do this in is probably ground at rank 3, just because you get the most spawns, or air arcade, since there's once again a ton of spawns in that one. So this, since it's going for like 2 or 3 weeks, 250 kills and assists is not that hard, right? It's pretty easy to do. If you're grinding your general dailies and also doing your specials at the Battle Pass, you'll get this done no problem. If you are struggling with it, of course, just play meta lineups that are around. 6-7 America is very good, 7-3 Germany, 7-0 Soviet, 4-3 Soviet is another one, 4-7 Britain, 5-7 China. There's a few which are all pretty good, so yeah, just do those. Fire safety is the next one, and all you need to get is 20 awards of help with repairing or firefighter. Now, these can be really annoying. If you don't know what they are, basically helping with repairing is if a teammate is repairing and then you go next to them and help them, then you get a help with repairing. Firefighter is the same if you use your extinguisher to extinguish an ally's fire. You're mostly going to get the help with repairing ones instead of the firefighter, because the firefighter happens a lot less. The easiest way to do this one, so play some rank 3 heavy tanks, KV1s is 5, is a personal favorite, and then if you get tracked, squad up with somebody, by the way, if you get tracked, what you can actually do is you can kind of break the system. So what you do is one person gets tracked, the other one, it helps them repair. Before the repair ends, you move yourself as the person who's repairing. It counts as a help with repair. You can do that like 3 times or maybe 4 times, and there you go. You're already about 1/5 of the way there. Just do that a bunch of times, and then you're done. Simple as. The other way to do it is to run around in light tanks and kind of, repair stuff like that. Another way is actually in naval. Automatically repairing is on in naval, So what you can do is just stick near your allies. If they take even minor damage, you can help them with repairs without even realizing. So that works really well as well. The major method to get it done though is probably the heavy tank method if you're struggling with it. So just get 1 or 2 people together and then sort it out like that. Hammer of Hephaestus is next, and all you got to do is play 75 battles and get at least 1 kill in it. So remember, when it comes to all of these things, you need to do it in like rank 3s or above. This should be pretty simple if you're doing your general grinding. Nothing to really worry about. You'll just do this without even thinking. The next one is Struggle of the Elements, and this is a mirror of one that we had in the past. Basically what you have to do is destroy a specified number of player vehicles of another type of military branch. So it's 10 vehicles, aircraft, and tank and ships. So what this means is you have to kill 10 aircraft with either tanks or ships, and then if you have to kill tanks or ships with aircraft. So yeah, it's basically just like the opposite thing. The aircraft one is super easy to do. Basically all you've got to do is either in ground forces or naval forces do well enough to get into a plane, and you can get in whatever vehicle you enjoy. Usually it's easier to kill tanks unless you are playing certain BRs, such as I think it's 3.0. Is it 3.0 American Naval, where you can get in the Hellcat and torpedo a bunch of early reserve destroyers since they don't have a lot of AA on them. That's pretty easy to do. When it comes to killing tanks though, there's a lot of open top stuff in the mid tiers, 4.7 to 6.7, a lot of open AAs, a lot of easy targets for bombs, so might as well just go for them. When it comes to killing aircraft, I usually whap out something like the WZ-305. If you're struggling to kill them in realistic arcade, it's much easier to kill aircraft. A lot of people actually kill themselves by ramming into the ground, so as long as you hit them and they hit the ground, then you get the kill. Once again, stuff like the WZ-305, anything with HEVT, that Doom light tank that they basically just added for the Soviets would be very good at this. But yeah, it's this one isn't too hard, and it's only 10 kills for each over quite a long period of time, so I won't worry about it too much. It's not too hard to do. Wrath of Vesuvius is next, and this is super easy. So basically you have to destroy a specified number of ground or surface vehicles in air battles, and you need 100 of them. By the way, a standard special task that you can get, Mass Destruction, is killing 80 of them, and I usually do that in about 5 or 6 matches. So it's really not that hard. The vehicles that you want to use for something like this is the SP2C5. You can find it in the American tech tree. You can also find it in the French tech tree. There's a bunch of other attackers that you can use, the AM1, the AD2, the AD4. If you want to make it harder for yourself, you can use stuff like the Mosquito. The Wyvern is available as well. Stuff like ME410s, BF110s. Actually, maybe not BF110s, but ME410s definitely work very well. DO335s, anything that kind of is just a ground attacker will do well here. But generally 100 vehicles over like 3 weeks, which are AI, not going to be that hard to do. You can easily clean up 20 in one match if you have a good run with the SP2C5, so I wouldn't worry too much about this one. Should be quite easy. Fire Tornado is next, and what you have to do is receive a specified number of mission points in each of the following modes: air battles, ground battles, naval battles, and it's just 10,000 score in each. So basically you need 30,000 score overall, 10k in each of the types of the modes. Shouldn't be too hard to do, generally you just have to play rank 3 in each of the modes. One of the ones that people may struggle with is naval. If you want to get to rank 3 quickly in naval, Japan for the blue water is probably one of the easier ones to do. It's super easy to break into that rank 3 area, and also at the same time the Shimakaze, the squadron vehicle, is fantastic. So if you need to do this one, the shimmy is the way to go. Stuff like the SKR-7 squadron vehicle is really nice as well. At this point, if you're at Season 9 of the Battle Pass and you haven't ground out some kind of rank 3 naval, make sure to do it now. It won't just be useful for battle passes, it's also useful for events, because then you can get the vehicles from there and then you can sell them even if you don't want them. So this one is a super easy challenge. You just have to make sure that you're set up with each each branch of War Thunder and have at least one rank 3 of each across the board. Heralds of Ash is similar to the last one, apart from you have to specifically use the vehicles from the current season of the Battle Pass. Now you need 20,000 mission score to be able to complete this. Now remember, you don't have to specifically use the vehicles to get that score. All you have to do is spawn them in a lineup which you are getting that score with. So if you're not comfortable with whatever Battle Pass vehicles you have, you can kind of carry the game with the other one and then J out and get into the Battle Pass one right at the end, and then it will count overall. This may be a little bit harder for people who don't buy the Battle Pass, so by this point, which is about halfway through the Battle Pass, I believe, what you want to have been able to do is get to level 51, which is of course where the Churchill Crocodile is, where that is the free vehicle in this Battle Pass. So that should be an aim for you if you want to get this challenge done. You have to, by the 14th of December, you have to have level 51 in the Battle Pass, otherwise you're not going to be able to do this challenge. So the reason why I held off on doing this video for a day is because of this challenge. They finally fixed it and its wording. It's called System of Measures, and you have to destroy a specified number of player vehicles using ground vehicle main weapons of various calibers. So less than 35, from 35 to 60, from 60 to 90, from 90 to 120, and then greater than 120. Now, this one might be a little bit annoying for some people because of the fact that there's a lot of variance here, and there's not a ton of vehicles that actually have certain parts of this, but it shouldn't be too bad. Remember, so you need to use a ground vehicle to do this, and it has to be a main weapon. So less than 35mm, you're looking like a lot of the AAs, Ostwind, Whirlwind, stuff like that can work really well to get this done. Even the 20mm, like the Eastervak, for example. You could even maybe get lucky and use something like the Marder, for example, which has a pretty small autocannon. There's also stuff like the Bushmasters. You know, you have the 30mm on specific vehicles with very good penetration. Maybe you could kill stuff with them. That could also work. 35 to 60 is a little bit odd. The thing that comes to mind is the 40mm, stuff such as the AMX-13 DCA, for example, the Sergeant York, which would probably be a really good pick for this one, but also, once again, you know, light vehicles which have 35mm would be pretty nice. Stuff like the Orbital HVG has obviously a 60mm if you want to use that, but generally that one might not be the greatest. You also have the 57mm from the British, maybe that could work. 60 to 90mm, there's a ton of options. There's a lot of 75s, a lot of 76s in the game, a lot of 88s. So German mid-tier, American mid-tier, Soviet mid-tier, all of those would work really well. Pretty much all mid-tiers would work very well for this. And then from 90 to 120mm, there's a ton of 90mm in the game, M48s, M47s. Both of them work really well. M46, M36. You could even use at the same time. There's a bunch of stuff with similar guns to that. There's a few 100mm from the Soviets, for example. T-44-100 would be pretty good for this as well. Then for the greater than 120, you know, you have all of the donk cannons, the 155s, the 150s, the G6 Rhino, the FE-4005, for example. And then also you have stuff like the 128mm on even the Yag Tiger. That could also be used. I think what I'll do is, for this one, when it starts, I'll do a video talking about which vehicles I think are best to use at each of the tiers, so you can get it done quickly, because you have to kill 10 vehicles each at each of the points here, and since it's a time challenge, this might be really annoying. So yeah, this could be a problem for a few people. This one, you have to make sure that you have at least one vehicle with each of these criteria before it starts, so it might be worth thinking about working on that now. Meteor Rain is the next one, and all you have to do is kill 10 vehicles with bombs and 10 vehicles with rockets or AGMs. This should be super easy. The easiest place to do this in when it comes to bombs is ground. With the overpressure, how overpressure works with open top stuff nowadays, and also light vehicles, you can bring something like a P-47, P-51, anything like that which has access to 1,000-pounders. The Typhoon, for example, would be really good for this one as well. If you want to do this kind of quickly, stuff like that would be great. You could even kill stuff, or you could even use stuff like the B-7A2 with its 800 kilo bomb, just to kind of really make sure they're dead, so that wouldn't be too hard. When it comes to the rockets and AGMs, obviously you can use stuff like bullpups, and even stuff like helicopters with their AGMs, but I actually generally think playing naval for this one, or playing mid-tier on like 3-7-4 is the way to go. So for ground, so in naval, stuff like the tall boys. Are they called the tall boys? No, sorry, the Tiny Tims. There you go. The Tiny Tims, or the Uncle Toms, or anything like that. The larger rockets are really, really good for killing PT boats. They pretty much one-shot them. Even if you just get it close to them, they overpressure them, they just blow up. So that can be a really easy way of kind of decking things. You can also do this in ground, going after Warbonds, Oswinds, Eastervax, Bosvax, stuff like that. Anything that's open topped, if you just land one of these rockets near it, it'll just annihilate it and overpressure it. So that won't be too hard to do. Stuff like the Mosquito actually gets 4 of them, so if you get air superiority, it works really well for the vehicle. But the easiest way to do this is probably going to be high-tier helicopters, or stuff such as an AD2 or an AD4 with a ton of rockets, and you just overpressure open-top vehicles. And then the last timed challenge is called Barrage, and it's destroy a specified number of player aerial vehicles by operating the guns of the coastal fleet in manual mode. So you have to basically kill 5 aircraft from a ship from your hand. Is probably the way to do it. I found last time when they did this challenge, I tried the SKR-7, which of course is a squadron vehicle. It has HEVT. It also is able to track or auto-track planes in the air. It worked really well, but nobody spawned in planes because everybody was trying to do the challenge. So instead, what I ended up doing is I played the 3-0 American boats, and I just sat behind a rock and waited for people to spawn in planes and then shot them down with the 40mm. I did it in arcade, so it has kind of the auto-aim thing, which helped out quite a lot. I feel like other stuff like the PR-183 might be a good idea to do this with the 25s. That could also work very well. Anything that's fast firing, which can kind of hit vehicles kind of close to you. Because remember, you don't have to use the main caliber guns. You can actually switch to the AA guns or the auxiliary guns and use them instead. And it can work very, very well. But that's how I did it last time. I think in general, as long as you keep an eye on what's in the air, you can do it pretty effectively. Stuff such as the Douglas would be obviously perfect for something like this. You can just donk them with missiles. But I think the most efficient thing to do it in is the SKR-7. But as I said, it didn't work last time, mainly because people weren't spawning in planes. So I had to revert to some lower rank stuff, and it still worked very well. As long as you have like a 40mm, anything's possible in naval. The first seasonal challenge, which you unlock at level 21 of the Battle Pass, is called With Fire and Sword. It's win a specified number of battles while destroying at least one other player's vehicle and capturing 1 point. So you have to do 25 battles with this. So 25 battles, 1 cap, and then 1 kill. This can obviously be done very effectively in naval and also ground. I think it's probably easier to do in ground. Vehicles that I would use for this is probably the 5.7 Hellcat. Stuff which has a lot of speed, so you can get the cap on pretty quickly and then go for a kill. Since it's 25 25 battles, and since you're probably going to have at least like 2 months to do this in, it shouldn't be too hard to do, especially since a lot of maps have what we class as a home cap, so you can cap that and then go and fight on, and then go after people. Or you could do the classic, like, flank the enemy, take out a few of them, and then go for a cap. That's a bit more risky, obviously, because, you know, the cap isn't as guaranteed. But if you just focus on getting a cap and then getting a kill, this should be super easy. And while you're doing the other challenges, you'll be able to do this as well. You'll do this one without really thinking, you know. The next one you unlock at level 40 of the Battle Pass, and it is probably one of the tougher ones. It's Armageddon, and this one is kind of there for pretty much every Battle Pass. You need to receive the specified number of streaks, so you need 7 Hero of the Skies or Heavy Metal Heroes or Terror of the Sea. So the way that these works is you could get like 2 Terror of the Seas, 4 Hero of the Skies, and 1 Heavy Metal Hero, and that counts, right? So you can kind of spread it about. Terror of the Sea is you need to kill 12 ships and also have the most ships killed in the whole of the battle. And that's 6 in RB as well. There's a multiplier on it. And then also you have the other 2 where it's kind of the same, but for the other game modes. So for air battles, you need to get 12 kills in AB and also have the most air kills overall out of both teams, or you need 6 in RB, which is pretty much impossible, and have the most kills once again. Heavy Metal Hero is the ground one, and you need, once again, no fewer than 12 enemy ground vehicles killed in arcade, but in realistic, it's actually 6. So Heavy Metal Hero, I think, is the easiest to do, at least for me. You can die as many times as you want, by the way, so it isn't like the Survivor Medal, which is sometimes the one that they do. Instead, this one, you can spawn as many times as you want. You just need the most kills out of everyone in the game, and it has to be 6 or higher. So stuff like meta lineups definitely come into play here. You know, early T-34s, 3-7 Sweden's quite nice right now. I've been playing it and it's been pretty fun. Stuff such as 4-3 Soviet is really strong right now. 5-3 German is really good. 5-7 China is fantastic to be able to go on, and usually the more or the lower you can go, the more kills it's easier to get, and also the more respawns. So usually you want to target that like early rank 3 area, so like 3-7 Italy I believe is there, or 3-7 France maybe might be the one to go for, just because you are the lowest you can be, and also people will just spawn a lot more. Hero of the Sky is really hard to do unless you do it in arcade. Realistic is pretty much impossible. In naval, the same thing goes, but actually the opposite way around, so it's much easier to do in naval RB, but I would say ground RB is the easiest place to do this in. Heavy Metal Hero is one of the hardest awards to get, but can be done, especially since you're going to have the vast majority of the season to do this in once you unlock it. The last seasonal challenge is at level 60, and it's probably the hardest of them all. And this is because it requires specific vehicles to do it with, and also is just a pain. So it's called Flight of the Phoenix. What you have to do is destroy a specified number of player ground vehicles while using air vehicles at a speed of at least 800 kilometers an hour. And you need to do this 15 times. Now, there are some vehicles which will be better than others at doing this. Stuff such as the Phantom, coming in very low and just kind of carpet bombing areas, I think will work very well for doing this with. Stuff like the SU-7 are probably pretty good at doing this as well. But there aren't many vehicles in the game which can do this type of attack effectively. Stuff like the MiG-23BN might also be one to have a look at. The Q5, if you're very good with the actual, if you're very good with the bombs. Stuff like the MiG-27K with its guided munitions, but you just have to make sure that you're going fast enough. I don't know whether it is speed at point of release or speed at death, which matters when it comes to these ones. But yeah, there's really specific vehicles to do this one with, and like the ones that I've mentioned, and if you don't use them, it's going to be impossible to do, because if you go too fast, a lot of ordnance do not launch, and if you go too slow, you're not going to be able to do the challenge. This one is just going to be a pain, and when I think about more how to complete this one, then I'll make sure to make a video on it when I unlock it and complete it. As I said though, I think stuff like the Phantom, the F4C is a really good shout for this, and also the SU7 is a really good shout for this, as long as you know what you're doing when it comes to dropping the bombs. The last one is Flame of Victory, and you get it by completing all the other seasonal challenges. As I said, this is kind of just like a tip of the hat. It gives you 4.5 levels, which is really nice, and kind of just finishes off the battle pass in style. Just means you get 7.5 levels for the last one instead of 3, so that's quite nice. Most of these challenges are not too hard. There is just a few which require very specific vehicles to do, which will screw over people. And the last one, the Flight of the Phoenix, is just going to be an absolute pain to be able to do. So I'll make sure while these challenges come out to make videos on how I completed them, kind of like how I did in the last update or last Battle Pass, since people seem to enjoy that. But overall, I'd say most of these are pretty easy to do. You know, not too bad, just to take a bit of time. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. The harder ones are the ones which are higher up on the seasonal challenge thing, and you got the longest time to do them, so it won't take too long. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Forge, Siegebreak, Carrion Crow, Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, and also Sem Arslan, Wilkski, Uncle Bean, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.